Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with Johnny Nelson MBE. Johnny, good to be in your company once again. How's the grass keeping as we head towards winter?
The grass is doing well, man. I'm going to keep sneaking a cut in as much as I possibly can before the weather that puts a stop to all that. So we're good.
I've seen some guys actually commenting about your physique as well too. You look in just as good shape as you did before. What are they saying?
Training, man. Training. You got to diet right, fast right, eat right. We're all good. Told you that plan of work, baby.
Looking good, Johnny, and we'll be seeing the other fighters as well too. Get ready for their workouts ahead of this weekend. Azim versus Harry Davis. Look, when it comes to Adam Azim, one of the boxes that people want to see ticked is, of course, against a world-level operator, but also the chin check test. Do you feel that we've seen him pass that yet, or will beating Harry Davis and taking a few digs see him do that?
I think Harry Davis is a good opponent for him at this stage in his career. He's stepping him up slowly but surely. Yes, everybody wants to try and rush him and get him in there to test the chin, to test that. He's got to learn the job as a professional. We saw with Ben Whittaker the other week, you've just got to keep learning, make your mistakes, let's see how fights roll out. So I think they're moving at the right pace, so let's just enjoy him while we can enjoy him. And then when the risks get higher, then we enjoy that level too.
I've been anticipating the return of Ante Yard. It happens to be on a boxer show. Ante Yard got bags of personality like yourself, but he's got to kick on with his career with a light heavyweight scene now, seeing a undisputed champion crowned. In the future, we might see the belts fragment, and Yard can have those big fights with the likes of Boatsi or have a shot at the world title again. What of the return of Yard and the prospect of him being world champion before he ends his career?
You know what? We did a show with him last week in the studio, and Anthony's a nice guy. He's full of energy. He's a good kid, and I like that. He's got the enthusiasm of a young fighter coming through. I like all that about him. So it's down to him, down to opportunities. He's a talent. He wants to get out there and fight. So again, Saturday night's a chance for him to remind people of what it's about.
Want to see that fight with Boatsi?
Yeah, Boatsi. That should happen. But you know what? It's the politics of our game that stop these things from happening. Again, we can beg and plead for these things to happen. They'll happen when they're going to happen.
Let's get into last week's action. A lot of fallout from it as the dust settles on that fight week. First of all, in terms of the boxer interest, I want to get your thoughts on Ben Whittaker. A lot of fallout on that fight. Liam Cameron put in a brilliant effort, but a lot of people feel that Ben maybe took the easy way out. Now, I would never call a fighter a quitter in that position, but people are pointing the finger at Ben. What's your thoughts on that situation?
It's easy to do that when you're not in his position. I've not spoke to Ben, and he says an issue with the ankle. He says an issue with the ankle. What you see is what you see. I actually thought the way he fell, it was probably fell on his back. But up to that point, I actually thought Ben was trying too hard to get rid of his opponent in the Cameron to put on the show, and I thought he's getting tired here because he's trying to punch him out of there. So again, I've said it previously. At that point, that's the point there when you've got your wisdom in your corner to say, no, stop, boxing, man. You're making a hard job an easy job. I remember I boxed Michael Murray. Did the same with Michael Murray. I was trying to knock him out. He was a heavyweight. I was a cruiserweight. I was inches away from getting knocked out. Came back to Conor Ben and said, Johnny, what are you doing? Behave yourself. Box him. Completely outbox him. So Ben made it was something he had to learn as a professional. Do what you're good at. Improving what you're good at. And even the fallout of all this is actually good because it's going to make Ben again rethink and think, all right then, you know what? I've had to pay the price of that. I'm going to take your criticism. He's still going to be he's going to get the crowd to watch him to win or lose. He'll get the abuse, he'll get the applause. But still, I think it's a good lesson learned for Ben either way.
Has he got to take the rematch next?
Yeah, I do. I do think he's got to take the rematch next. And so it's a case of how long is out of the ring for.
I just wondered about Liam Cameron as a fighter because he would have been in and around the Sheffield gyms and seen that sort of style and sparred that sort of style so many times.
That's what I'm saying to him. That's why Ben... He made the wrong gamble. He thought he'd be able to punch him out of there, razzle dazzle. He didn't razzle dazzle. He just went there and did what everybody else does: box, try and punch someone out. Ben's an exciting, intriguing fighter because he's got the razzle dazzle. He can box. He can be flash. He can punch. But when you go in there and box like everybody else, why would it be any different? So Ben should have got in there and done what he did. And doing that makes an opponent make mistakes, makes an opponent leave himself open, makes an opponent frustrated. He didn't do that. And I think it was a pressure of getting out there inside, trying to impress, because that stage was made for him. I think he understood that as well.
What do you think to the video of him surfacing of him smashing up the phone as well after at the airport?
I've not seen it. And of course, you know what? human nature, you've got to understand, he's going to be pissed off because he's going to get the backlash he's getting is ridiculous. And so that's human nature. He's a young boy he's tasting the sour side of our sport.
Moving on to Frazer Clarke, we're billing that as the 13th round of the fight, and it was an emphatic finish for Fabio Wardley, who moves on to the next level. But what for Frazer, who now, thankfully, we got the reports through that he's had surgery and he's doing better and he's going to have some time away from the sport and just think things over. But what did you think to that fight?
I think Frazer Clarke went out there, and you know what? The inexperience of being a professional fighter, came through, because when he got turned in the ropes, some fighters would milk it. You stand there, let the referee break you up, get a bit of space so you can settle yourself. He didn't. He tried to get straight back in the fight because he was trying to establish an authority in the fight. Fabio Wardley, you could see the experience of a pro. He just kept letting the shots go. So it was inexperience against an experienced professional fighter. It doesn't matter what you've done in the amateurs. The shot itself, brilliant shot. People were blaming the referee. The referee did nothing wrong. Frazer turned around, put himself in a position to fight again, to defend himself. And Fabio did nothing wrong either. It was just an inexperience of a guy that's turned pro, but he doesn't know all the tricks of the trade yet, and he suffered the consequences.
I did see on Talk Boxing on TalkSport that when the fight was being discussed between Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver, and Adam Catchall, I believe it was, that they thought maybe retirement was an option that you should consider. Do you feel the same way?
Not because of the top five, but because of the knockout. And I've never seen anybody get knocked out and have that kind of response physically. And so it scared me, it worried me. It looked like he had a stroke. Now, if a man's getting hit like that once and that effect is there, you think there's a fragileness about that area. I'm not saying it's fragile on the chin. What I'm saying is, when you see somebody get hit like that and you see the effect it has on a fighter, you know it can happen to that fighter, then you think, it ain't worth it, man. It ain't worth it. I hope Frazer got paid handsomely, and I'm not in a position to tell him whether he should retire or not. I personally said he should retire. It shouldn't. You're in harm's way, because seeing that, it shows it can happen to you in that fashion. If he got knocked out clean, I'd say it's one of those things. If he got beat up, it's one of those things. It was the fashion of the knockout, the response, his physical response that made all the difference.
Johnny, can you go into that more? Because I feel like there's a bit of a nugget of information there from you, just in terms of fighter's mentality. When that happens to a fighter, and let's say, for example, hypothetically, he returns to the ring, how much will a fighter kind of think of that in the back of the mind for the future? What will it do for the mentality?
Not just he will think of that, everybody will think of that, because you now know it can happen. For Frazer, he'll be in the gym, he'll be sparring, he'll go through that first when he starts sparring again. But for Frazer, I just believe he will be at the back of his mind, and I'm quite sure his family and his loved ones will say, you know what, come on, baby, don't do this, and to try and talk him out of it. If you've got fire in your belly, unfortunately, you can't do anything about it. And he's a fighting man. I can't say Frazer walk away. What I can say is, out of concern, from a place of love, I'm saying, I've seen that happen to you, that kind of knockout. I ain't never seen that kind of effect on anybody getting knocked out. I've seen people get stiffed up, put out cold, beat up. But that, once I saw it was in you, that kind of effect, it's always in you. So it's only going to go one way if you get hit like that again. And so that's just my personal opinion. Frazer's a friend, and it's coming from a good place.
Looks like as well too, Chris Eubank Jr., he dealt with Kamel Zarameta as we expected him to do so, and then I think even before the fight was officially announced as him the winner, Conor Ben jumped into the ring and they had the altercation. It happened at the hotel and it happened in the ring as well too. We're waiting on information as to Conor Ben's status in the ring, but Eubank Jr. versus Ben, a fight that you're looking forward to seeing? I am. Of course I am. I'm excited to see it when it happens, and happens on the right platform. I am, without a doubt. And I'd be a liar, and anybody else that's telling you I'm not looking forward to see it will say that too. It's got everything involved, and this is personal with these boys there. They got the job done. Conor, to say it's a proper fight that's in such a position, and he's not got a British license, he's still on the tip of everybody's tongue. He's a guy that everybody's talking about. Okay, moving forward there were fights inside the ring, and of course there were fights outside the ring, or at least maybe not quite a fight, but there were some tussles behind the scenes between Ben Shalom and other promoters, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. Just what do you make of Ben, who feels like he's been frozen out by his rival promoters, who he's working with now there? Maybe it's bubbling over into the public space right now, but what do you think about the relationships between the three?
What's happened to Ben hasn't happened to Eddie. Has happened to Eddie and has happened to Frank. You've got to get your head put down the toilet, and these boys are going to try and trip you up, or these boys won't make life easy for you, and you've got to take your licks. And so he's got to take his licks. It's a big boys' game, a big woman's game. It's a tough game. So why is anybody going to open the doors and say, come on, be our competition? They want to give you a hard time. So I think Ben handled himself well in regards on the stage. I got it. I thought, you know what, it's your fight. You want to represent your fighter. It's a little bit of a sneaky move, someone trying to stand as though they're representing your fighter. Ben stood his ground, so good on him. Showed us some cojones.
Do you think you expect to see more from Ben? Do you sympathise with Ben, the feeling that this is maybe them two kind of ganging up on him a little bit and trying to make it
I
difficult?
don't sympathise with him because that's part of the job. Accept it. That's how it is. So that's just how it is. It's going to happen to anybody. Any new kid on the block is going to get it. Both Frank got it and Eddie got it. Now Ben's got it. So it's nothing new. It's just one of those things.
Beterbiev versus Bivol. People are saying that they're looking forward to the rematch between the two. I wanted to ask, though, from a cruiserweight perspective, do you think that Beterbiev, if he chooses to move to cruiserweight, does he have the frame to succeed at cruiserweight with amongst the cruiserweight champions?
It depends on who the champion is. I think I prefer to see a rematch. I think if they have a rematch, I think Bivol wins him more convincingly. I had the fight, probably a draw. I think Bivol won the first half of the fight. Beterbiev came in at one pace, finished at the same pace. And because Bivol's energy levels dropped down, it looked like Beterbiev had taken over, but he just was consistent with his pace. That's what happens when you're an older fighter. I'd have said one round to Beterbiev, if not a draw. So I think the scorecards were way out, but it was a matter of opinion.
Last topic to discuss, that being the heavyweights. Tyson Fury has since come out and he's spoken now. He said that he's keeping his team the way it is with John Fury, Sugar Hill, and Andy Lee in the corner, and feels like that's the right way to do things. He's not going to change that right now. What do you think about that heading to the rematch with Alexander Usyk?
If he doesn't change anything, it's going to be the same result. I think he now realises he outsmarted himself. He was street smart. Went in there and tried to outbox the boxer. I expect Tyson Fury to get out there and fight him and box him. If he fights him, he's got a better chance to deal with him. I thought he'd beat him before. He didn't because he was street smart. If he goes in there with the same attitude, he gets done again. If he goes in there to fight him, if he goes in there to not try and match him for boxing ability, he gets done.
I think it's been said now by the team that Tyson couldn't spar because of the cut, and that's what hindered his performance there.
You see, and the problem is this. Everybody says, I don't want to make excuses. Bullshit. No excuses. The fight had taken place. Take your licks. You lost the fight. So let's do it again. That's it. You know, the fight had done and dusted. We saw what we saw. It doesn't matter. We saw what we saw. Now he's got to don't go in there again. So hopefully he'll go in there because if that was the case, why would you? To me, I just think you were getting outboxed by somebody that was better than you, and you couldn't change your game plan midway through. I think changing that setup for the next fight, get in there and box your fight, and we'll see. So it's odd because when fighters say, I don't want to make an excuse, and then you get it leaked out, they're making an excuse. So it sounds like excuses, and it ain't classy. You know, take your licks and then move on, then beat him the next time. Get the job done right. I've dealt with you now.
It's also being said that the weight, Tyson Fury put out a post on social media saying, look, I was in fantastic shape for the first fight with Usyk, but that's not the real Gypsy King as he put it. The real Gypsy King as he put it is heavier, one that's going for the destruction, one that's going for the knockout. The right words coming out of his mouth?
It'll match a fighting style. Lean on him, you know, make it hard and rough him up. You know, if that's what works for him, that's what works for him.
Very last thing, the rumour of Derek Chisora versus Jarrell Miller. What do you think of that fight?
Wow. Good fight. Interesting fight. I know Derek said he's got 1 or 2 fights left and then he's done. I'd be interested. I would be interested. You've got 2 guys. Derek's a wily old fox, but he's an emphasis on the old. And Jarrell Miller going there. I think it's a good measuring stick.
Johnny Nelson MBE, pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for speaking to Seconds Out, sir. Good man.